Okay. Okay. All about Maine from a first-time visitor. First-time visitor who travels and lives in her car. That's me. Weird and interesting laws and facts, first impressions, and anything that I found surprising. I certainly wasn't expecting it to become one of my favorite states pretty much instantly. Lighthouses, pine trees, bluffs, foliage, beer, blueberries, lobster traps, donuts. Maine is known as the pine tree state. Its flower is the white pine cone, which isn't even a flower. The state's animal is the moose, and I figured when I was rolling into Maine that I would just see them as much as like the typical state sees deer. But my friend who's lived there her whole life, she said that she's never seen one in the wild before. The capital of Maine is Augusta. Used to be Portland, but they moved it to Augusta to be more central. And no one can agree how Maine got its name. Since the state was colonized by so many fishermen, it would often be referred to as the mainland when they were out on the water, so mainland just got shortened to Maine. Another theory is that it was named after an English queen who was from France originally. Maine was a province there, and they think that it just eventually changed spelling. But no one can prove any theory at all for reals. I know I keep being surprised by this, but it was very English. It is part of New England, but it looked like the ways England looks in the movies, because I've never been to England. And it's quiet, it's very peaceful. You can tell in just when you drive around, like you know you're at the most northern point of the lower 48 states. You feel like you've made it to the outskirts of the USA in a really beautiful, serene way. They have a very strong community. If you're from Maine, you're automatically connected to other people who are from Maine, is what I hear. Very local based. The people from there call themselves Mainers. Beaches are a huge part of people's lives in Maine. Especially, obviously, if you live on the coast. There are people scuba diving during all times of the year. There weren't many cities at all. The biggest city was Portland by far, and it's a nice sized city, but other than that, what I was surprised about, most things north of the Portland area, like the northern part of Maine, is just like desolate. Barely any people, barely any population, just pure wilderness. My favorite part was definitely that spot I found for the sunset on Winter Harbor in Acadia. Something that I kind of missed out on that I'd love to go back and do more is explore the culture in downtown Portland. It's a huge foodie city. Maine is the only state that shares a border with only one other US state. So obviously you have Hawaii and Alaska who share no borders. Then every other state shares 2 or more borders. 90% of the country's lobster supply comes from Maine, which isn't that surprising. Donut holes were invented in Rockport, Maine. That happened because they were trying to fry up the whole donut patty and it wasn't cooking evenly. The insides were staying gooey and uncooked, so they'd punch them out, and to not waste any of that dough, they'd fry the middle part up as well and serve those as donut holes. I've already mentioned that geography is very far from being my strong suit. If someone asked me what state was closest to Africa, I probably would have just guessed Florida, but it's not. It's Maine. Maine is the closest US state to Africa. Maine's coldest recorded day was in January of 2009 at -50 degrees Fahrenheit. Then moving on to weird laws, you will be fined if your holiday lights are left up any later than January 14th. It is illegal to bite your landlord, but in Rumford only. So any other locations you're totally allowed to. In Portland, it is illegal to tickle a woman's chin with a feather duster. Also in Portland, your shoelaces must be tied when you're walking down the street. In Waterville, Maine, it is illegal to blow your nose in public. Is weed recreationally legal? Yeah. Their dispensaries, from my experience, were great. You walk in, buy stuff like at a normal store, walk out. It's very unique in its tight-knit community and its peacefulness and environment-centered culture. From what I hear, every season takes it to the extreme in the most beautiful way. There's a lot of pride amongst the Mainers for their state. You can see me interview Elise, and our friend Erin gave a lot of great insight into what it was like growing up here in the state and how they feel like it's different from the other states they've been to. If you appreciate the time I've been putting into these videos, which is a lot, it would mean so much and go so far if you would buy me a sandwich. Just for $5. I can treat myself to a Walmart pre-made sub while I'm editing in their parking lots. Head down to my Buy Me a Sandwich page, or if you can't help monetarily, these comments have been great. Thank you.